The year is 2012. A storm brews behind the stately facade of Barclays, a titan of global finance. Inside the opulent boardrooms, hushed whispers hint at a scandal of unimaginable proportions. The air crackles with tension. Power struggles erupt in the shadows, masked by an outward appearance of stability. Reputations hang in the balance, fortunes teeter on the brink. One wrong move could bring the entire financial system crashing down. The fate of Barclays rests on a knife's edge, a single decision separating it from ruin. Unbeknownst to the outside world, a web of deceit has ensnared the bank. A tangled trail of transactions obscured by layers of shell companies and offshore accounts points to a sinister truth. Millions of dollars, perhaps billions, have been laundered through Barclays systems, funding criminal empires and corrupt regimes. As investigators close in, the pressure mounts. The bank's executives scramble to contain the damage, desperate to protect their wealth and reputations. But the truth, like a runaway train, cannot be stopped. Lives will be shattered. Careers lie in ruins. The very foundations of trust upon which the financial world is built will be shaken to their core. This is more than just a story about money laundering. It's a chilling tale of greed, ambition, and the lengths to which some will go to protect their secrets. This is the story of Barclays' darkest hour, the story of the money laundering probe that sent shockwaves through the world, and it all starts now. Founded in 1690, Barclays had long been a symbol of stability and financial prowess. From its humble beginnings as a goldsmith bank on Lombard Street, it had risen to become one of the world's largest and most influential financial institutions. Its iconic eagle logo, a symbol of strength and prosperity, adorned skyscrapers and financial districts across the globe. Generations of investors had entrusted their savings to Barclays, confident in its unwavering integrity and commitment to ethical conduct. Little did they know that behind the polished facade of corporate responsibility, a darker truth was festering. The first cracks in Barclays' carefully constructed image appeared in the form of an anonymous email. Sent to financial regulators in early 2012, it detailed a complex scheme of money laundering involving billions of dollars in illicit funds. The email claimed that Barclays had knowingly facilitated these transactions, turning a blind eye to the origins of the money in pursuit of profit. The whistleblower, whose identity remains a closely guarded secret to this day, provided specific details about the accounts involved, the individuals who orchestrated the scheme, and the methods used to conceal the money trail. The allegations were explosive, threatening to unravel a web of corruption that reached the highest levels of the bank. News of the whistleblower's allegations spread like wildfire through the financial world. Regulators in the United States and the United Kingdom launched investigations, demanding answers from Barclays executives. The bank's stock price plummeted as investors, spooked by the scandal, rushed to sell their shares. The once unassailable giant of finance was now facing an existential threat. The probe into its activities had the potential to bring down the bank, cripple the global financial system, and send shockwaves through the corridors of power. The question was no longer whether Barclays was involved in money laundering, but how deep the corruption ran. At the heart of the scandal was a figure shrouded in mystery, a financial phantom known only as the architect. His real name remained a closely guarded secret, whispered only in hushed tones in the darkest corners of the financial underworld. Some whispered he was a former Soviet intelligence officer, others a Wall Street prodigy who had gone rogue. The architect was a master of disguise, his tracks expertly hidden behind a labyrinthine network of shell companies and offshore accounts. He moved billions with the click of a mouse, his true identity obscured by layers of digital encryption and false identities. He was a ghost, a rumor, an enigma that haunted the investigation from the shadows. If the architect was the mastermind, then his lieutenant, the enigmatic Miss Eva Rostova, was the facilitator. A former ballerina with the Bolshoi Theater, Rostova possessed a captivating charm that belied her sharp intellect and ruthless ambition. She moved effortlessly through the world of high finance, her beauty and grace disarming even the most seasoned executives. Rostova's role was to build relationships, to cultivate trust, and exploit weaknesses. She used her connections to open doors for the architect, charming bankers and regulators into overlooking suspicious transactions. Her network of informants stretched across continents, providing her with invaluable intelligence and access to sensitive information. Standing guard at the entrance to Barclays' vast financial empire was Jonathan Jack Sterling, the bank's head of compliance. A veteran of the City of London, Sterling was known for his impeccable suits, his aloof demeanor, and his unwavering loyalty to Barclays. He was the gatekeeper, the one who decided which transactions were legitimate and which raised red flags. Sterling's reputation was built on his adherence to the letter of the law, but the investigation would reveal a more complex truth. Had he been blinded by his ambition, his desire to climb the corporate ladder? Or was he a knowing participant in the scheme, handsomely rewarded for turning a blind eye to the flow of dirty money? As the investigation deepened, a disturbing pattern began to emerge. It wasn't just a few rogue employees who were involved in the money laundering operation. A culture of complicity had taken root within Barclays, a toxic environment where profits were prioritized over ethics and where turning a blind eye to suspicious activity was rewarded. From the top executives to the junior analysts, there was a sense that everyone was in on the game. Bonuses were paid out on the volume of transactions, regardless of their legitimacy. Whistleblowers were silenced, their concerns brushed aside. The pursuit of profit had blinded many to the consequences of their actions. Seeds of deception, the genesis of a scandal. The Barclays money laundering scandal began after the 2008 financial crisis. Barclays, desperate to recover, met the architect. He offered a risky, profitable proposition. Barclays, blinded by greed, accepted. A river of dirty money, tracing the illicit flows. The architect's scheme was deceptively simple, yet breathtaking in its audacity. He funneled billions of dollars in illicit funds, derived from drug trafficking, arms dealing, and political corruption, through a complex web of shell companies and offshore accounts. These funds, laundered through Barclays' global network, were then used to finance further criminal activities, creating a vicious cycle of crime and corruption. The transactions were carefully structured to avoid detection, often broken down into smaller amounts and routed through multiple jurisdictions. Barclays, rather than scrutinizing these suspicious transactions, turned a blind eye, happy to collect their fees and maintain the illusion of legitimacy. The web unravels, a trail of evidence emerges. The whistleblower's email provided investigators with the first concrete evidence of Barclays' wrongdoing. Armed with this information, they began to piece together the complex puzzle of the architect's scheme. Subpoenas were issued, bank records were scrutinized, and a team of forensic accountants worked tirelessly to follow the money trail. As the investigation progressed, the evidence against Barclays mounted. Internal emails revealed a culture of complicity with senior executives discussing ways to conceal suspicious transactions and maximize profits. Testimonies from former employees painted a damning picture of a bank that had lost its moral compass, sacrificing its integrity for the sake of greed. The walls begin to crumble, Barclays under scrutiny. The Barclays money laundering probe sent shockwaves through the global financial system. Newspapers ran scathing headlines, politicians called for investigations, and the bank's reputation lay in tatters. Barclays, once a symbol of stability, was now synonymous with greed and corruption. Executives once lauded were now facing criminal charges. Miss Rostova, Jack Sterling, and others disappeared, their whereabouts unknown. The hunt for the masterminds was on, uncovering a web of corruption. The hammer drops. Barclays faces the music. The weight of the evidence against Barclays was overwhelming. The bank, facing the prospect of crippling fines and a potential ban from operating in key financial markets, was forced to admit its guilt. In a stunning turn of events, Barclays agreed to pay a record-breaking $450 million settlement to US and UK authorities. The settlement, announced in a terse press release, sent shockwaves through the financial world. It was a staggering sum, even for a bank of Barclays' size, and it signaled a new era of accountability for financial institutions involved in money laundering. The era of impunity was over. Collateral damage, lives and reputations shattered. The consequences of the Barclays money laundering scandal were far-reaching. The bank's CEO, Bob Diamond, a titan of Wall Street, was forced to resign in disgrace. Other senior executives, their careers and reputations in ruins, followed suit. The once revered institution was now a cautionary tale, a stark reminder of the corrosive power of greed. But the damage extended far beyond the bank's executive suite. Thousands of Barclays employees, their livelihoods tied to the fate of the institution, faced an uncertain future. Shareholders, their investments decimated by the scandal, watched in horror as the value of their holdings plummeted. The human cost of the scandal was immeasurable. The fugitives, a shadowy pursuit. While Barclays faced the music, the masterminds behind the money laundering scheme remained elusive. The architect, Miss Rostova, and Jack Sterling had vanished, their trails going cold despite a global manhunt. Interpol issued red notices, placing them on their most wanted list, but they seemed to have disappeared into thin air. Rumors of their whereabouts swirled through the financial underworld. Some whispered they were hiding out in a luxurious villa on the French Riviera, others that they had sought refuge in a remote island nation with lax banking laws. The truth, shrouded in secrecy and speculation, remained elusive. A legacy of distrust. The Barclays money laundering scandal left an indelible stain on the reputation of the global financial system. It eroded public trust in institutions that were once considered pillars of stability and integrity. It exposed the vulnerabilities of a system that had become too big to fail, too interconnected to regulate. The scandal served as a wake-up call, a stark reminder that even the most respected institutions were capable of great wrongdoing. It forced regulators to rethink their approach, to strengthen oversight and enforcement mechanisms. It sparked a global debate about corporate greed, ethical responsibility, and the true cost of financial crime. The unanswered questions. The Barclays money laundering probe stands as a stark reminder of the fragility of trust and the devastating consequences of unchecked greed. The elusive masterminds behind the scheme vanished into the shadows, leaving a trail of unanswered questions. Did they escape justice, their gains safely tucked away in offshore accounts, or are they still out there, plotting their next move? The Barclays scandal serves as a cautionary tale, exposing the dark underbelly of globalization. It demands our attention and scrutiny. What other secrets remain hidden in the shadowy world of high finance? Like and subscribe to Oblivion Unlocked for more captivating investigations.